where I am today relative to where I thought I could be back in high school, where I thought, well, I'll just paint houses. It's just truly unbelievable for me looking back. So just, if anyone ever tells you no, push forward, just understand the deficits, and then do what you have to do to pivot.
Yeah, you did. You pivoted.
Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer.
Persistence and passion. Those attributes can be a 1-2 knockout combination. To extend the boxing metaphor, Rob Allen, our guest today, was reeling around in the ring of life, aimlessly throwing punches at vague goals, when a seemingly innocuous remark lit a fire of passion and persistence that enabled him to deliver powerful blows to the obstacles that stood in his way to success. So we've got Rob Allen on the line here. Hello, Rob Allen. This is Jimmy Ahmuhdoofous. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Jimmy. Hello.
Hey, persistence.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, persistence is the theme today. I'm anxious to learn about that because I could do with a little persistence. It's a valuable commodity.
That it is, and I've been persistently trying to get on this podcast. So I appreciate you finding some time for me.
Lots of people have. Hey, before we get into that, we have a number of examples that I've asked you to share with our audience about persistence. But before we do that, where I want to start is where you currently are now. You are employed by the Jim Beam Company, correct?
Yeah, so it's called Beam Suntory. We are a subsidiary of Suntory Holdings, which is a Japanese company. And we are the third largest spirits company globally. And we have some great brands like Jim Beam, Maker's Mark, in the bourbon portfolio, Baker's, Booker's, Basil, so on and so forth. But we're much more than just bourbon. So, of course, we have the Japanese whiskeys. And, if you name the type of spirit, we have something that plays in that space.
Hey, you got any coupons that I could use, baby?
Interestingly, in America, we're a 3-tier system. So I work for the producer of the goods. So we distill it, we bottle it, and then we send it off to either a control state where the government runs the final distribution to the stores that you purchase it from, or we sell it to a third-party distributor in like the open states. We sell it to the grocery stores that you shop at. So I don't personally have access to the coupons, unfortunately.
It's so all right, whatever. Tell us about some of your responsibilities at Jim Beam, maybe what a typical work day is like for you. I know you were just flying last week, so it involves some travel, obviously.
Yes, I do travel a bit. So I'm I'm a finance director of decision support and S&OP. And under that remit, I am responsible for our global logistics, global procurement, and S&OP, which is supply and operations planning. And so the supply and operations planning is really kind of the end-to-end. What's the demand signal through what's the rough cut capacity planning and utilization? And then we, of course, convert that to the cash needs. So that's the S&OP side of it. Procurement is great. I am the financial lead for all of the, all the dry good components. So it's our labels, it's our glass, it's the commodities that we purchase. And then on the logistics side, that's literally door to door. So it's where we produce it, the road freight, the ocean freight, the air freight, just all the financial support for the full range of activities to get spirits from our door to your door.
Wow. You're the second person in a row now I've interviewed for this podcast that has had global responsibilities. That's pretty impressive.
I'll tell you, it's one of the most exciting things about the job because I get to work with people all over, different perspectives. And I recall when Suntory acquired Beam, they sent me to Tokyo for 3 months. And so I got to spend 3 months just in a totally uncomfortable new environment, trying to, fish out of water, if you will, trying to fit in and get along. And it's fantastic. So I just love those opportunities.
It does not sound boring at all. What is your official title at Jim Beam?
It is the Director of Decision Support and S&OP for Global Supply Chain.
How many people are you supervising and have charge responsibility for making sure that they get their job done?
Yeah, so currently I actually have 15 directs, and so that's 7 of them support the decision support and SLP side, and then 7 of them are on the global supply chain controlling side, which I'm doing on an interim basis. Um, I used to be the global supply chain controller. I'm covering for somebody, so that's my current like directs. But then there's indirects. So there's obviously big orgs underneath that we partner with and work closely to manage. Uh, like when we do case finished goods forecasting, if you will, there's local finance teams that we work with to set targets, make sure inventory levels are appropriate. Um, and that number would grow to around, I'd say 60 that I'm working with regularly.
And then those people are supervising others that are involved in the operation.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. I heard you use the word finance, the term finance earlier, so you're crunching a lot of numbers. What kind of budget are you working with? What kind of financial responsibility do you have with Jim Beam?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, again, not like getting into the specifics of the numbers, I would say rough cut, maybe around 1.5 billion of the COGS based.
Just hearing those numbers, Brian Shu, the guy I interviewed with global responsibilities with Nestle, he also has thrown out billions of dollars. Like, does that not affect your sleep at night sometimes, knowing that there's all this financial amount of money that you're responsible with and are have been given that you're to take care of it? Does that ever make you not sleep well at night?
It's a great question. No, I mean, I sleep great. I mean, I'm very comfortable with the fact that I'm not a doctor, so no one's going to die on the table with me. So it doesn't matter what the dollars are. No one's going to lose their life. So I sleep okay at night. I will tell you, though, it is an interesting concept because when you talk to someone at like one of the manufacturing facilities, $2,000, $3,000 might be big, meaningful, impactful dollars to them.
Yeah.
And then when you're at the corporate office and you're talking to someone, I mean, you have to be over we're looking at like plus or minus $10 million with some of the estimates that we do. So it's a much different scale. And so you always have to be cognizant of who is my audience as we're having these conversations, because you don't want to be dismissive of the people that have a $2,000 problem, while at the same time, you don't want to be presenting a $50,000 problem to the CFO.
Right. So, and the reason I'm asking for your situation with Jim Beam right now is because it hasn't been an easy, smooth path for you. It hasn't been smooth. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You weren't targeted from early youth. You're going to go to these prestigious institutions and learn how to handle all these various responsibilities and acquire all these skills and handle all this money. So I want people to understand where you're at now so that they can better appreciate some of the stories of persistence you're about to share with us. So let's back it way up to Wauconda High School, which is where I think you told me that you had me for speech class.
I did have you for speech class. You were one of my better teachers, not to dig at any of the other teachers, but I think you were more patient with, some of the challenges that I presented as a student. It's an interesting concept. When I was in high school, for many reasons, I did not focus on my schoolwork. I had different jobs that I was doing. I participated in a few sports, not like a top tier athlete in any sense of it, but participated in some sports. And so my focus just was not on the schoolwork. And it was an interesting time because I made it through junior year and I was working at the Jewel in Wauconda, and a friend of mine had visited or came home for the summer. And at the time, he's a friend now. He wasn't a friend when he came home, and he got a job as a bagger over the summer. And he was talking to me and he says, "Man, you're a really smart guy. You should consider going to college." And until that moment, I had never really considered going to college. I'd always just thought, well, I'll be a painter. I'll paint houses for the rest of my life, or I'll keep working at Jewel for the rest of my life, which, at the time, it's all relative. And at the time, it was enough money to live. And so I probably would have been very happy doing that, to be honest.
Yeah, you were going to be okay with fondling cucumbers there at the Jewel.
But he did light a fire. And so I looked into it and I thought, okay, well, what would I have to do to go and make it into a university? And he was at Western Illinois University. So I thought, well, I'll go see what Western Illinois requires. And you probably know this. Western Illinois is not the most prestigious school in Illinois to get into. Like it's not difficult. It's a relatively easy school to get into.
It has some of the lowest grade point average standards and other restrictions that they're more generous than perhaps other schools. Yeah.
They are. And I feel bad for the university, to be honest, because I wouldn't have what I have today if not for that university, but their enrollment's way down. So
right.
I do think there's some good teachers there, professors there, but it doesn't change the fact that the school is what it is. And so I looked at my GPA at Wauconda High School, and it was poor. So I thought, hey, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. So I applied to Western.
Can you be specific about your GPA?
It was, if I'm going off of memory, it was sub 2.0. I mean, I want to say it was like 1.7.
Okay. Yeah. Not stellar.
No. But keep in mind, I mean, also I missed a solid, like if you add all of my absenteeism up over the course of my 4 years at Wauconda High School, I missed an entire semester of school.
And that was due to some family situations.
Yeah, I mean, family situations, and then I was prioritizing work. So if I could get extra hours at Jewel, and it meant I was going to miss some work at school, I'd be happy to do it. But I was doing all that again. Like I do have some growing up, and still to this day, like I'm the youngest of 5, and 4 of the 5 of us are disabled, and then I had a single mother. So it was just a lot of unique requirements on me when it came to like, all right, we should probably think about how we're going to put groceries on the table.
Right. And going to college might be part of that solution, but you had a poor GPA, and when you tried to get into Western, what happened?
Yeah, so I applied to Western, and I actually applied to Western and Southern. And this is a bit of a compliment to Western. Western turned me down. Southern accepted me.
Hey, Boomer, isn't that where you went to school? You shut up, Jimmy. Go ahead, Rob.
Again, nothing. I mean, God bless both schools. They're all great, but you go where you can get into. And so Western turned me down, but that's where my buddy went. So I thought, well, shoot, let me reach out to the school and figure out what's up. So I sent on the letter that they sent me, where they said you could not come here, because your academic standards were not up to their admission requirements. There was a phone number. So I called the admissions office and I explained to them my situation. It's like, listen, what do I have to do to get into this school? And they said, well, if you turn it around a little bit, like ultimately, if you can get your GPA, I can't remember maybe it was a 2.0 or maybe it was like a 1.8 or 1.9. It was something along those lines. They would let me in on academic probation.
Then, as of this moment, they're on double secret probation.
Double secret probation, sir?
And so that senior year in high school, I got a 4.0. Both semesters.
Wow. Turn it around.
And so totally turned it around. Really, because I knew it was like, okay, I got to upweight my GPA to get in on academic probation. So I did it. I managed to, and it just goes to show, like, it's one of those things where some of the students, I mean, I'm sure there are students out of today who are just totally competent, very capable, very smart. And it's just, where are they putting their energy? And if you can find a way to get them to focus their energy in the right things, they could be extremely successful.
The story kind of reminds me of this guy named Matthew Nance.
I know him. Yeah.
Very similar. Yeah, this is a good story for not only current students, but for teachers to hear of the kind of kids that are just languishing. They're doing their thing. They're relatively staying out of trouble, but school, for whatever reason, just isn't. They're not motivated by it, but that doesn't mean that doors still can't open. So you're trying to open the door to Western.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had a great year. And then Western decided to let me come in on academic probation. And so when you're on academic probation, you have to get, I think, a 3.0 or something along those lines. Maybe it's less than that, 2.5. But the first semester at Western, I got a 4.0.
Excellent.
And then the second semester at Western, I got 4.0. So it just set me on it. Again, that refocusing my energy on the academics totally changed the trajectory of my GPAs over the course of not just that last year at Wauconda High School, but every year at Western. So when I was at Western, I took an accounting class first semester, and I said I want to declare as an accounting major, and they said you can't because you're on academic probation. So I didn't get to start the accounting stuff as soon as I wanted, but once I got off academic probation, I got to go through the accounting program where, again, like my GPA was strong. I maintained a job outside of school. Of course, I worked at the library, which was fantastic. I double majored in accounting and management.
Oh, Major Houlihan, Major Stoner. Major Burns, Major Stoner. Major Pierce.
Well, I think we've made a major breakthrough here.
And, I worked in the tutor lab. I was vice president of an honor society for accounting. So,
Wow.
I really made the most of my time at Western, recognizing that it got to a point at Western where I thought, oh, shoot, I realized that Western was not actually a great school. And I was like, I better do everything that I can in the school to buoy the resume.
There you go. And this all started because you refused to let the rejection letter shut you down. Another person may have said, I can't even get into Western. I suck. I'm a loser. I'm gonna go bag groceries. I'm gonna fondle cucumbers the rest of my life. That's what I'm gonna do. You said,
or just go to Southern like Jimmy, right?
Well, that hurt, didn't it, Boomer? He's cringing over here, Rob. He's crushed.
I'm gonna be okay. Yeah. So you didn't let that rejection put you down. You said, hey, well, okay, but there's got to be a way around this. There's got to be a fix. Come on. And so you inquired.
That's right.
Was there
because I think
go ahead.
For me, it goes back to the motivation. It was like, what initially triggered me to go to college at all? And it was this guy that came to be a bagger. You actually might know him, Justin Ziprich.
Yeah.
So him. So he came to Jewel and he said, you should go to college. And he said, you should come to Western because that's where I go. And so I said, all right, I'm going to do that. And I set my mind to it. I was like, all right, Western's the school I want to go to. And I applied to the other school just because everyone was applying to multiple schools.
Sure.
But Western was the one that I wanted to go to. And so when they said no, I didn't just go to Southern. I said, all right, well, what am I going to have to do?
Again, with the Southern dig. He's being very persistent with that.
What extra investment of my personal time am I going to have to make this a reality?
Awesome. So that's one of our that's our first example of you being persistent.
Boomer, could I recap for a moment?
Go right ahead, Jimmy.
He's a D average student, but does get into college, gets a 4.0 average, while working a job, has a double major, vice president at the Honor Society. Holy about face, Batman.
Let's move on to your personal life. You had some persistence involved in meeting your future wife.
I did. So at Western, it was my freshman year, actually. I met her freshman year, first semester. We were in an English class together. And it's one of those things like, you've been to a university, you go in, most people just go straight into the classroom, but sometimes you have to sit in the hallway before class. And so I noticed her on the first day of school. She was sitting a couple desks over from me. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
And she still is.
Around, biting her nails. Oh yes, she absolutely still is. And she was sitting with a guy, not a boyfriend, but a guy, and they were, talking, if you will. And I thought, oh, she's really gorgeous. And then the next day I went in, I thought, I'm going to sit next to her, but I got there before her. So I sat on a desk that was next to the desk that she had previously sat in. But there's no assigned seats in college. So she came in and she sat at a different desk with this guy, but also sitting near her. And I thought, okay, this is frustrating. So over the course of the next few weeks, I kept trying to either get assigned as a partner to her, like in a group project, or sit near her, and it just wasn't working. And so one day there was this volunteer project that we had to do, and she stayed later so that she could ask the teacher a question about it. And then she left. And then I stayed later so I could ask the teacher a question, but then I didn't ask the teacher a question. And I go outside to see where she's going. And I see she's going to a bus stop. And I was like, okay, this is my chance. I can't catch that bus at that bus stop because I can see the bus coming. So I just start sprinting to the next bus stop. And I was I had like a messenger bag on, like I could remember this vividly. I had a messenger bag and I was wearing Birkenstock clogs, which are terrible running shoes. They're not designed for a sprint.
You
But
didn't have them in sport mode then, huh?
no, there was no sport mode option on those bad boys. They were the classics. So I'm sprinting to the next bus stop. I catch the bus at that bus stop. I get on the bus, and thank goodness the seat next to her is open. So I sit down in the seat next to her, and then I take a moment to catch my breath because I am clearly winded.
And your clogs are hot.
Yeah, that's right. So I catch my breath, and I say to her, I'm like, hey, what are you doing for the volunteer project? And she said, oh, I'm going to do this. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, that's a great idea. I think I'm going to volunteer for this political thing because one day I'm going to be president of the United States. And she looks at me and she's like, what are you talking about? Like she was looking at, the strangest guy she's ever seen. But it struck up a conversation. And by the end of that bus ride, I had asked her if she wanted to get together and work on some project where, again, I don't remember the project at the time. I was just like, I need to get her in another environment with me, like whether it's library or lunch, something. I just need something. So I need a next step with her.
Absolutely.
And so she said yes. And then she came, we went out, we got lunch, and then really the rest is history. I started dating her pretty quickly after that. And then here we are married now for 14 years.
Congratulations. That is a great story. I mean, it starts with you seeing this gorgeous woman. She's already got this guy that she's associating with. So maybe I'll be persistent. I'll try and set it up. So I sit next to her. You get there early. You get the seat near where she was before. Then she doesn't sit with you. She stills with this other guy. Oh, that sucks. I'm not going to let that put me down. So I'm going to be persistent. I'm going to stay after class. And then if you follow her to a bus stop, the bus is too early. You can't get to it. These really crappy ass clogs you got on, and the bus takes off, and you could have said, well, obviously fate does not want me to be with this woman, but you said, no, I'm going to be persistent. You sprint in your clogs, you get on the bus, you start up a conversation, and like you said, the rest is history. It's a great story about not giving up.
It's a great story about not giving up, and it's a tricky story because there's maybe a thin line in that story between persistent and creepy. And I like to think that I played that line well and managed to stay on the persistent side of it.
Yeah, I've had police officers talk to me before about that kind of persistence. Well, good for you. I'm glad it worked out for you there, Robbie. Hey, let's take this opportunity right here to hear from our sponsors, okay? Brief message coming up.
Around P-Town, it's got the news that you can use. Around P-Town. AroundPtown.com, it's got the scoop with all the poop.
Ben's Barbershop, it's a place I like to stop. Whether it's to get a fancy do or just buzz off my mop, Ben's Barbershop. It's a place I like a lot, and you'd like it too if you did your do at Ben's Barbershop. That's Ben's Barbershop in Morrison, Illinois. Look 'em up on Facebook. Make an appointment. Tell 'em Jimmy Ahmuhdoofous sent you.
That was story number 2. So you graduate from Western. You've got this wonderful woman on your arm, and you're looking at some positions that you might be be employed by.
Yeah, so I graduated at a weird time because it was 2009. So we were like in the height of the Great Recession, if you will. So there weren't a lot of jobs. And even though like my GPA was good, it's Western. So like coming back up north, nobody in the Chicagoland area was hiring. But I was fortunate enough, I found a job in Springfield, Illinois at McLadry. They're in like an assurance services company. So they do like audits, what have you. So I became an auditor. I audited banks and not-for-profits. And I was thrilled that I had a job, like
Right.
Absolutely grateful and thrilled that I had a job.
You're part of the American working force.
That's right. And there's a lot of people that didn't have jobs. And I had friends who had jobs and then they had the jobs pulled. So, I mean, I couldn't have been more grateful for McLadry hiring me.
But those people probably all graduated from Southern, though.
Yeah, for sure. They're Southern people. There's a lot of Illinois State University people there. But But the nuance of that is, despite how grateful I was for having the job, I would wake up every morning, and I remember this vividly. I'd put my feet, I'd swing my feet off the bed, put them on the floor. I'd kind of hang my head, and I would just do this deep sigh of, here's another day. This is brutal. And so you just go and you do the grind. And, it's important. There's no job out there where you're going to love every aspect of your job.
Right.
Right. So you work through the bad because you like 70% of the work that you do. But if you're in a job where you don't like 70% of the work that you do, you really need to find another job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I found myself. So I was in Springfield for a year and a half. And then about a year into it, I realized to myself, I asked myself that question: do I like this job? Do I like 70% of this job? And I didn't. So I said, all right, I got to start looking elsewhere. But I felt pigeonholed in accounting because I was taking all the CPA exams, and I was getting ready, to just spend a career in accounting. So I thought, okay, where can I get another accounting job? So I just started throwing feelers out there. I think back then it was monster.com and Career Builder, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if those still exist. I haven't looked for a job in a long time, but that's where I was going. And I saw this job posting for Beam at the time. It was JPB Co. No, Beam Global Spirits and Wine is what it was at the time. And I thought, oh, cool. Oh my God, that's a whiskey company. And
nice.
During college, when I studied a lot, but I also drank more than maybe I should have. So I was like, oh, whiskey's exciting. I can get behind that, because even
Whiskey River, take my mind.
Like when I audited banks, I'd go to somebody and I'd say, that, if I met them out at a bar or whatever, they'd be like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'd say, oh, I audit banks. And that's the end of that conversation. There's no more conversation to be had. But you get a job at Beam. It doesn't matter if you're doing accounting, you can be the janitor. If someone says, what do you do for a living? You say, oh, I work for Beam and I do this. Everybody wants to talk about the spirits. They want to know the stories. They love the legacy. I mean, it's an iconic American brand.
Yeah.
And we come out with interesting stuff all the time. So it's just a great place to work.
I got to think there's got to be I'm stereotyping here, but there's got to be a difference between a banker, a guy who audits banks, and the guy who works for Jim Beam. There's just no comparison, or a very different look.
You are exactly correct. I mean, I think if you're happy working at banks, you're very black and white, these are the facts type person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're working at Beam, I think Beam does a great job hiring people that, embody the spirit of, like, on our door, it says, come as friends, leave as family. I think they do a good job finding the people that are willing to leave as family, if you will.
And that's not to knock the wonderful people that work in the banking industry. If like you said, if they're enjoying 70% or more of that job, then obviously we need bankers. They serve a valuable service for our society and our economy. But it wasn't for you. It wouldn't be for me also. The Jim Beam position that you're going to tell us about, how you persistently went after, was something that was going to be more up your alley.
Yeah, agree. So I applied to Beam, and they brought me in for interviews, and it was great. I did 3 rounds of interviews. I met a bunch of people. They were all really wonderful people, and the office was exactly what I thought it would be. And then it felt like it went really, really well. And then I go home and I wait my week and a half for them to come back and tell me, the decision about the hiring. And I got my, it was an email. They sent me an email and they said they were going to go a different direction. And I thought, well, that is a bummer. But the again, if you go back to like the motivating factor here, what excited me about Beam was the product. And it's like, I know that the accounting is going to be the same anywhere you go. So now I have this whole new vision of like, okay, if I want to be happy at work, I need to be doing something for a company that I absolutely can get behind. So it's going to be something like Jim Beam, or at the time it was Anheuser-Busch, because I thought, beer is really cool, or the Chicago Bears. All of those are pretty difficult places to get jobs. And I kind of had a foot in the door at Beam because I went and did an interview.
3 rounds.
So I took 3 rounds. And so I send them an email, and in the email, I, again, thank them for the time. And I tell them, like, listen, I understand that, I'm not the right fit for this position, but I absolutely loved the people in the company. And I said specific things about each person that I interviewed with, right? And I was like, so if there's another position that opens up that I might be qualified for, please do reach out to me. I would absolutely still love to come back and work for you guys full time. And it was like 2 days later, I got a call from the hiring manager at the time. And she goes, Rob, in my 6 years at Beam, 7 years at Beam, I've never ever received an email like that. And I've interviewed, lots of different people. So yes, come on back. There's another role that we're opening up here. We're going to transition the job from Kentucky, and we think you'd be perfect for it.
Wow. That is awesome.
So I came in, did the interview, got that job, and it's been great ever since, obviously. So I started as just a fixed asset accountant, and I've been there for 13 years, moving up through the ranks.
Again, another excellent example, another excellent lesson of just because you get rejected doesn't mean that the door is completely closed. Go back, be persistent, look for another angle. If the door is locked, or maybe there's a window around the one. The old saying is when the one door closes, another one opens. A great example of someone not willing to take no and let it put them down and keep them down. Rejection was not going to stop you from being persistent.
No, not at all. And even more above and beyond that, I remember the first day when I was there, I was going around being introduced to everyone in finance, and they introduced me to this girl, and they're like, she just started 3 weeks ago. And I was like, oh, so you have my job.
Nice.
And then it was funny because 6 months later, a role opened up on that team that I originally applied for. And then I was like, I'm going to go get that job because that's the job that I initially wanted. Mm-hmm. So I spent that first 6 months proving that I could do the work. And then I went and took that other job in consolidations, where I was in consolidations for 3 or 4 years. And so I started as just a consolidations accountant. And at the end of the 4 years, I was the manager of consolidations. And the person who was hired before me had rotated out to another team.
Nice.
So I was pretty adamant to make sure that I didn't just get the job I wanted, but became the manager of that team. So,
well, that says something about your abilities and your work ethic. Obviously, your work ethic as far as school was concerned was not there, and that ties directly to your motivation. But your work ethic in your professional life and even in your personal life was certainly there. And you wanted to continue improving as much as you could as a professional. And that leads to our fourth example of persistence, dealing with you obtaining an MBA. Tell us about that.
And I think for me, it always goes back to motivation. So the motivation to work at Beam was I wanted to work for the cool company. Then I made it to manager of consolidations at Beam, and I was looking around me, and I'm looking at all of the the directors and the ELT people, the executive leadership team. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going on LinkedIn and I'm looking at their profiles, and they all have degrees from schools that are, again, a better pedigree than what Western is. And so I was worried at the time that because I went to Western, that I might have this glass ceiling over my progression at Beam. So I had potentially created a false mental ceiling for myself where I'm not going to excel beyond manager if I don't have something better than Western on my resume. So I applied to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign to get an MBA. And
it wasn't Southern, huh?
It wasn't Southern. No, I needed to do something. Wanted to step up, not down. That's a geographic joke.
There you
go. And so I applied, and it was an interesting, because I thought at the time, hey, I have good experience. I had a good GPA at Western. So I thought, I'm probably a shoo-in for this. And again, they turned me down. And I was like, what the heck? So, and that was an interesting one, because it took me, that one more so than the others caught me by surprise.
Well, at this point, you're a professional, you're successful, you're in a managing leadership position. Hey, who wouldn't want me?
Exactly. That's really where my head was at. So to be honest, it was a little deflating, because I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to get move up beyond this at Beam if University of Illinois is not even going to bring me for an MBA.
Right.
So the guy, it's interesting because you have to interview with people live. And at the time it was Zoom call. So I jumped on a Zoom call and I met with this guy who was an alumni of University of Illinois. And he was supposedly going to give me a go, no go. So I get the rejection from University of Illinois. And in the rejection, it says, you were beat out by other really qualified candidates, including doctors, entrepreneurs, lawyers. They were listing this group of candidates that I was competing against who seemingly had already made it in life. So I couldn't, for the life of me, understand why would University of Illinois even want these people over someone who's going to go get an MBA and then take what they learn and use it to build a career, as opposed to take someone who's already established with a very successful career and then just give them another feather in the cap.
Good point.
So I sent a very long email to that guy who I interviewed, listing out exactly that. And I was like, listen, if the intent and the purpose of the MBA program is not to enable and unlock potential in people who have not made it, then what is the point of the program? What is your remit? And that's another one where the guy, it was like 5 days later, he called me back and he was like, hey, I took your email to the dean of the program, or I forwarded the email to the dean of the program, and we just absolutely love the passion that you have to come in here, and we think you're spot on. And he was talking. It's like, it's not that we were choosing lawyers over people who are trying to build a career. It was more that we just wanted you to understand there was a high level of quality candidates coming. And I was like, that's fine, totally understand. But the dean said, you know what, let's put him in this cohort. So I did a 2-year program at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, all while working full time, of course, and then graduated from that. I got of course, an MBA with a focus in finance and global strategy.
Wow. And like you said, doing that with a full-time job, I understand what that takes. I got my master's degree while I was teaching and coaching. It is not an easy task. So again, kudos to you. You got rejected yet once again. Part of this story, though, is not only were you persistent, but your logic and power of persuasion obviously played a role here. And the way that you already phrased it, I'm not even going to try and paraphrase it. You said it so well. But what you contained in that email obviously struck a chord with them. So they're like, yeah, why do we have an MBA program? So good job on being persistent, and great job of, being able to write well enough and express your passion to win the position that you did.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think passion's so important for any, I can't overstate it enough. You got to find what you're passionate about, because then the rest just comes easy.
Well, you just listened, you told me, to the last podcast episode that came out just a few days ago. Brian Shu is walking away from a position like yours with global responsibilities, extremely well compensated, because he's passionate about being the chairman of the board of this international surf therapy organization. It's like, wow, that's passion.
Yeah. It was interesting, though, because when I was listening to that podcast, I thought if he worked at Beam, him and I would be I'd be his finance partner. I would be his, if there's a vice president of procurement, I would be his CFO.
Yeah. Well, he may be trying to poach you, so look out.
Yeah.
You'd look good on a surfboard, wouldn't you? Oh, Rob, thanks so much for sharing those stories. What would you tell high school students currently at Wauconda High School, and any high school, about being young and obviously you speak to the issue of passion, but looking at the life down the road and careers? I mean, you said earlier, it'd be a bagger at Jewel. I'm making a living. I'm not starving. I'm getting by. What else would you share with them about the possibilities that are in front of them?
Yeah, I mean, there's, if I could go back and look at a younger version of myself, I would definitely want to tell that person, there are better things on the other side of a very difficult conversation or on the other side of a very difficult task. but those tasks are never insurmountable. And it doesn't matter what you have in your toolbox in that moment. You can always sharpen the blades. You can always purchase a hammer. Like, you can get the right tool set to go and become anything. Like, I honestly, where I am today relative to where I thought I could be back in high school, where I thought, I'll just paint houses. It's just truly unbelievable for me looking back. So just, if anyone ever tells you no, push forward, just understand the deficits, and then do what you have to do to pivot.
Yeah, you did. You pivoted. It's a great pivot. And we got to throw in the whole idea of work ethic too. Once you figured out what your motivation was, what you wanted, you went for it. You just didn't go after it lackadaisically. I think I'll go to West. They told you what you needed to do. And when you pivoted from a sub 2.0 grade point average to a 4.0, that means you pulled up your big boy pants and went after it.
That is exactly true. And you can't really understate that. They're like, if you want anything, I mean, no one's handing out free. My father-in-law has a saying. He's like, they don't turn all the lights on in Las Vegas to give away money.
Right.
Like, if you want anything, you're going to have to work for it. So just figure out what you want. And again, if you find the path, if you find the thing that you're passionate about, if you find the thing that really excites you, you're going to be like, the work won't feel so much like work. It'll feel more like the things that you don't want to do will just feel like the tax you have to pay to get to the things that you want to do.
So on this theme of persistence, Rob, I'm thinking that if I send you an email about those coupons I was asking about, I find a way to get through for maybe a couple of 2-3 discounts on that Jim Beam product.
Maybe. I might not be able to do a coupon, but I'll give you some ambassador dollars.
Ambassador dollars? Dang, that sounds fancy. I'll have to put on my
coupon to the next level.
Yeah, I'll have to put on my smoking jacket when I sip on those bourbons up with those coupons. You had a long day today, and I really appreciate you giving up your time to share with what I think are important stories. We've had some fun with them, but the whole power of persistence, when you told me in person at my son's wedding, like, wow, those are great stories. Those are great life lessons that we can all take to heart and give us motivation and courage and inspiration as we take on our various tasks in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. And I really enjoyed the conversation. This has been fantastic.
All right. Well, I look forward to talking with you more at a later date, and I'll want to stay in touch.
Yeah, I'll call you back when I make CFO.
Please do. There better be a fistful of coupons, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
So thanks again, Rob, and take care.
Thank you. Cheers.
Jimmy, what a great story of persistence and passion. Boomer, I hope this interview makes its way into anyone who needs a little inspiration making a pivot in life. We don't have to settle. And we can sharpen our tools and carve out a dream or two. Good luck to all of you on such quests. Shut up! And kids, don't forget to be checking in with AroundPtown.com. It's got all the news that you can use. Stay hip, stay classy with AroundPtown.com. And for you fellas that want that hip and classy look, well, then you're going to want to get your butt to Ben's Barbershop chair. That's right, Ben's Barbershop. Look him up on Facebook.com. He's in Morrison. You make an appointment, you're going to love it. If you enjoyed listening to Boomer here, he'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to his podcast so you'd get notifications of when the next episode's coming up. Maybe leave a rating on a review. But go ahead and subscribe. That helps the podcast grow, and that makes the little fella feel so much better. And if you have any feedback for him, go ahead and contact him at ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Again, that's ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.